Starting point is extremely racist, frankly.
Is the assumption then that black people are just 2.5 times better at acting, newsreading, and those kinds of things?
Maybe.
Really? Should trans women be able to play in women's sports?
Oh, wow. You hit me with that one.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we're going to be reviewing a few clips of a race hustler getting completely exposed. It's one of those moments where somebody who's never had their worldview questioned comes under some light cross-examination and just totally crumbles. These clips are from Andrew Gold's Heretics podcast. He does a great job over there. So if you guys want to check out the full interview and subscribe to his channel, it's going to be right below. So with that, let's get into the first one.
23% of athletes who are playing are not white, so or BAME as we say in the UK. What is that? Black, Asian, minority ethnic, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, 23%. And that 18% are BAME in the general population. So I was watching that video sort of trying to think, well, so what's the problem here? Because there are actually there's more diversity in football than in the general population.
What was the video saying? There was a problem. Were they talking about football?
It was this big report that you had shared, and it was with Gabby Logan, and it was just, football, and it was the players, and it was, 23% are BAME in the game, and 18%, they didn't say 18%, they didn't say that part, but 18% in the general population.
It was my understanding from that podcast was addressing other sports, because I think I said on the podcast that actually football is very diverse, and actually the issue is not at pitch level for football, and I can only speak about football as somebody who works in the game, but I said on that podcast that football actually is an example of brilliant diversity, and I think our England men's team is. The problem is actually why that doesn't translate to the boardroom, right? So why is there, as you said, I think it's actually like 34% diversity in terms of football, but it's very, very, very limited in the boardroom. So that the issue was why there's not a translation of diversity in the boardroom. And I mentioned that, well, it's because of gatekeeping. It's because of, a lot of the money and decision making is in boardrooms. And
in the boardroom in sports, it's 17% are BAME, and as opposed to 18% of the general population. So that surprised me. To me, that seems pretty fair as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think with sport as well, you've got to talk about sort of cultural norms and cultural background, right? So as long as talent is allowed to be given the opportunity to express and play the sport, and access is there, then that's what's important.
So then why do we need like DEI policies? Because presumably, okay, maybe not the board level, but in sports itself, people are going to pick people, they want to win the game, right? You don't care if the person's like orange or pink or, from the planet Mars. You just want to win. When my understanding with DEI is that if you are going to favor someone purely because of something like skin color, that means they might not be the most talented, the best for the job. You're going more on skin color.
Well, you're not. DEI policies are not about skin color. DEI is about giving people who have talent the opportunity to express that talent.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So my issue with DEI and sort of anti-DEI discourse is that the starting point is extremely racist, frankly, because what you're saying is, well, because you're not white, you have to question whether you have the required skill, A, and B, you can't possibly be the best.
Well, you could be the best and then you'll just get the job, presumably.
No, but if you are getting the job, the assumption should be that you're the best.
Yeah, and it would be if it weren't for DEI policies. Now people assume you got it because of DEI policies.
But DEI policies, what DEI policies are we talking about? So again, I can only talk about my own industry, right? So a slur that gets leveled at me a lot, and it's always by white people, is you're only in the job because you're black. You tick a box, right? That is fundamentally what I see daily, right? Forgetting that I have probably been the best in my peer group from 4 years old when I played with white boys on my local estate, through to doing GCSEs and getting fantastic grades, through to going to university and finishing the top of my graduating class as a lawyer and one of the most diverse universities, Brunel, in the country, through to playing for England and being one of 12 people who've gone over 100 caps, through to playing for Chelsea and Juventus, some of the biggest clubs in the world. And I'm not sitting here bragging. That's just facts, right?
That's facts.
Now, I'm a living, walking, breathing example of the fact that a black woman can be the best.
Yeah.
One of the best in her peer group, right? So when I get a job ahead of a white man who's typically, the world's been built for that privilege, I can only point to the fact that I'm getting the job because of all those things I've just mentioned.
Because of your talents.
Right.
So I think we're agreeing though. Because
No. What and where I entirely disagree is this idea that, well, the DEI policy gave you the job. There is no DEI policy.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the reason people assume that, perhaps wrongly, because you're right, you're extremely well qualified, is because we have this DEI stuff. If we just got rid of it, I think you would have this job anyway, and no one would be accusing you of it.
But that I think that's a false and dangerous assumption that I would get the job anyway. That's just not the case.
Without DEI.
I haven't got the job. I haven't got the job because of DEI. In broadcasting, for example, no broadcaster has any laws or quota system that they need to abide by. It's a myth.
Are you serious?
No one, no government, no police, no anyone has said, you have to hire X amount of black women, you have to hire X amount of black men. No one said that, right? So ultimately, they're picking me because they want to pick me.
I agree with that.
Right? So this is where there is no DEI policy. In my industry,
Okay.
in broadcasting, despite me having the accusation leveled at me constantly that I'm only in the job because of DEI, there is no policy.
Look, I just want to make clear, I don't think you're in the job just because of DEI. I think you're in it because you're talented.
I know.
And you were one of the top footballers as well.
And one of the reasons why I came on this podcast is to have this conversation, right? Because we need to sort of debunk these assumptions that are really dangerous assumptions, and they're really racist assumptions.
But I feel like you're saying there isn't a DEI policy, but also you're defending DEI.
No, yeah, I'm defending DEI to the extent that very, very talented, excellent people are not white.
Yeah, of course.
So if very, very talented, excellent people are not white, they need to be given the opportunity, as have all the hundreds of years of white men been given the opportunity, to show that.
I suppose is it fair to say that you're saying that I'm maybe being a bit naive when I say you would have had this job anyway if we weren't going
I think that's extremely naive, because the reality is, Andrew, I have to be excellent to get the job.
Yeah.
Because the world has been set up for me not to get the job. The world has been built for someone like me as a black woman against a world that's actually been built on the patriarchy and privilege for white men. I'm not meant to be where I'm at. I've had to be, and I've just explained to you, like, for my life, I've been one of the best in my peer group, right?
Yeah.
So I've had to be that, and I actually have to work doubly hard, right? So when I turn up to do a show, and I'm next to, I don't know, Roy Keane and Gary Neville,
Micah Richards,
John Barnes, you know, these guys.
Yep.
I can't just rock up on the basis that I'm Eni Luco that played football. I have to do more. Just to speak on the same level, right? That doesn't mean I won't make mistakes as they do, but I have to do more research. I have to be more prepared because the bar and the expectation for me is higher.
So in my calculation, this is the most egregious form of race hustling that there is. I mean, if somebody's never really achieved anything in their life and they're looking around and blaming the world for all of their shortcomings, you can kind of poo-poo their ideas in a way. They're just bitter and blaming the world, so you shouldn't really listen to them. However, it's a different kind of race hustle when it's somebody like this. This is somebody who's achieved things in life and somebody who's attained a level of success and who undoubtedly has a lot of young women and young black women in particular looking up at her. And then she gets to the top of the mountain and she turns around and she says to them, look how impossible it is for young black women to achieve anything in this racist society. When she could be saying, hey, you guys can do whatever you want to do. Don't let these idiots tell you that your race will hold you back in life. I'm an example of somebody who's gone out and done it and who's achieved things based on hard work and dedication. And thank God I live in a country where these opportunities are available to me and I'm able to make the most of my talents. When somebody comes out with her type of messaging, it is just a very sinister form of race hustling. Furthermore, it's also a cringeworthy level of self-aggrandizement and arrogance to think I've had to work twice as hard as everybody else to get to where I am. Really? You think you had to work twice as hard as the men who made it to the top of the most competitive, cutthroat sport in the entire world? Could you honestly look at the men next to you calling the games on a Saturday afternoon and say that you had to work twice as hard as them? No. The fact of the matter is that they have had to work 100 times harder than you. They're 100 times more skillful than you, and they understand the game to a level which you will never comprehend because you've never played at that level. Example A1.
So what sort of a game are you expecting now?
Serbia just got to go for it. They've got to win. They've got to win, and I hope that Switzerland don't win as well. So I expect a game full of goals. I hope for a game full of goals. And Brazil, obviously, with star players, with Neymar, Coutinho. I want a good game. I want a game full of goals.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to this championship, he's had a real impact so far.
He really has. He's the top scorer for Brazil over the last 2 years. He's got a great record, 19 goals in 40 appearances. Do the math on that. It's one goal a game, pretty much.
Just be a bit more consistent, because sometimes it can be amazing techers and the next minute's over the bar. But he's consistent, right?
I think Patrice Evra said it best.
Urena hasn't had a good season in the MLS, so they don't score a lot of goals, and they're playing against a team in Serbia who do score a lot of goals.
That's a perfect link, thank you, Eni, to talk about the goal-scoring prowess of, he's good, isn't he? She's good.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Serbia.
So the reality, since you want to play the poor me, I'm a black woman victim card, is that the only reason that you would ever get a commentary gig is because you're a black woman. And the football world is completely woke.
The names on players' jerseys replaced with the words Black Lives Matter before themselves taking a knee to protest racism. Man City manager Pep Guardiola acknowledging the scope of the problem.
Wait a minute! My kids go to the school with the different Indian people, for black people, for normal people.
I mean, obviously, there are thousands and thousands of men who have played at the highest level of Premier League football who would be better than you at that job. You played women's football. The quality of the Women's World Cup is equivalent to an under-14s boys game. If I'm listening to expert analysis in the lead up to a Champions League football game or a World Cup football game, I want to hear from somebody who has played in the Champions League or the World Cup. And just last point on this. Sport is a place where men go to unwind, have some fun, bit of banter, and escape the monotony of everyday life. It's a place where we want to hang out with our friends and be silly. Why do women feel the need to impose themselves on these spaces and to ruin them and create all of this drama and feelings?
They're the men who like watching sport, but not the female version of it. Maybe you don't actually like sport. Maybe you just like watching half-naked men run around playing with balls.
Anyways, on to the next part now, where this lady continues to swerve reality with some of the most in-your-face examples of cognitive dissonance you are ever likely to see. But before then, guys, don't forget to smash that like button on the way to this next clip and also subscribe to the channel if you're getting value. Let's get to it.
coming out, if I came out to the press properly, the mainstream press, and said I wasn't hired because I'm a white person, okay, maybe certain newspapers we can think of might run with that story, but it wouldn't be the look that I want. Do you know what I mean? If you start saying, hey, I'm not hired because I'm a white man, can you see what I'm thinking when I think what look that is for me? What that would look like?
Well, I just feel like, you know, after knowing you for less than 20 minutes, I just feel like you shouldn't let that be an established narrative until you actually know that that's the case.
Well, over about 7 years, I spoke to about 50 production companies, and every one of them, they go straight to the BBC and Channel 4, said about halfway through the chat, they said, we do have to talk about something a bit uncomfortable. And I said after a while, I said, I know what it is already. And they said, well, we would not be able to put you forward. Now, the thing is, the evidence, there are 1 or 2 emails, right, who actually put it in words, but I don't want to get those people in trouble. Because I understand their pressures.
I don't want to gaslight you either, right? So I don't want to sit here and be like, no, maybe you're imagining it, right? Because that's not nice either.
The proof is in the stats.
But and the reality is, in that situation, yeah, like that is an example of somebody being hired because, you know, of their race. Right?
Okay, so another stat, just to bear out my point then, is that 3% of the UK population are black, and 8.1% of TV characters on screen are black. So if this is meritocracy and it's nothing to do with quotas and trying to push people up, is the assumption then that black people are just 2.5 times better at acting, newsreading, and those kinds of things?
Maybe.
Really?
I mean,
so because for years,
why not?
But for years, when it was that were white people, there were more white people per person of the population. Saying something like that would be considered racist.
Saying something like what?
White people are just better at TV presenting and news presenting and stuff.
Well, when I mean, white people have been dominant for hundreds of years, right?
Sure.
So that has been the assumption that.
But a wrong assumption. I mean, these are the assumptions that like Hitler made, that the white Ubermensch were better than anyone else, and we came to realise as a society.
I'm not sitting here saying black people are better than anybody else. I'm just saying.
What explains it? The 2.5 times more likely to be on TV in the UK.
I mean, there's a variety of reasons, but I don't think we should sit here and say because there's a disproportionate amount of black people on TV that the only reason for that is DEI.
So like what could be another reason?
Talent.
So black people are more talented than white.
Preference. You know.
But where does that preference come from if not a pressure for DEI?
But again, we go back to it. What pressure for DEI? What I mean, does the film industry like?
Yeah,
again, I'm talking about my industry, and I'm saying the assumption that I'm in the job because I'm a black woman and tick a box is constantly leveled at me despite how qualified I am for the job. Yeah. So, and I'm saying there is no DEI tick box.
But there is. They all use them. That's what diamond diversity is. It's to keep the TV channels in check.
It's just false to say that.
They have to have a certain number of ethnic minorities.
Where is this coming from?
Well, I first heard it when I was told I can't be on TV.
You did.
But loads of people have been told that. You just don't know who they are because they've never been on TV.
You have to talk about your own experience. I have to talk about my own experience.
I'm talking about facts. I'm talking about 2.5 times.
What you've done is you've highlighted the amount of people in an industry
on screen disproportionate
to the
yes.
Yeah. And you're attributing that to DEI policies.
I think the reason that
exists. Some white people have been given opportunities without
30 years ago, yes.
I mean, let's talk about you can't say that.
But I can because of the stats. White men are now the least likely to get a job on screen on TV based on the figures. There are more of them in general because the population, there are far more white people, right? But there are fewer on TV per person of the population.
Right.
So like 3% of black people, let's say, of the population, 8.5% on TV. So white people, let's say it's 40% in the population, there's like 35% on TV. I'm not someone sitting there going, this is a problem. There are too many black people on TV. Who cares, right? The problem is the number of white people who are then individuals. And let's not think of them as like groups, because every person is an individual. You know, every black person, every white person, every whatever other ethnic minority, they're all individual people. And it was, as I say, it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Was being told, because you're white, you can't have this job. So many people are being told that. And I think there are bigger problems
When you
as well.
say so many people have been told that, you have to qualify that. Like,
I
because
qualify
this
with
is
the
where,
stats. How could it be?
But those stats don't explain that so many people have been told that. You're just saying, how could it be?
How can it be that there are more than there are 2.5 times the number of black people on TV than the general population if certain white people are not given jobs unless black people are just better?
But there's certain industries that one type is more dominant than the other. You look at basketball, it's predominantly black because black people are really good at basketball. You look at, I don't know, I'm thinking chess. I mean, chess, I love chess.
It's hard to imagine a better gotcha moment than the one that we just witnessed there, where he pulled out the stats about black people actually being overrepresented in British media. Her whole shtick is that there aren't enough black people in these positions and we need more representation. It's so hard for black people to get to these positions of esteem. And throughout history, white people have just been holding us back. So now we're so underrepresented and we really need to level out the playing field. And then right in front of her face, she's presented with the fact that black people are actually overrepresented in these fields, and boom, all of a sudden they're just more talented. She assigns sinister motives and oppressor status to the straight white men. But when it comes to black people, talent. And then she has the sheer audacity to claim that anything or anybody else is racist.
It's always by white people. When I played with white boys, extremely racist, frankly.
And look, Andrew Gold seems like a nice fella. He's obviously not trying to give her a hard time, and he's giving her the fairest shake here that you could possibly give. And he even lets her slither away a fair bit. But this just goes to show that even with the slightest little bit of friendly pushback and just a little bit of statistics, these people's worldview will completely crumble. I'd say she won't be going on any podcasts anytime soon. Incredible. Now, Andrew does well to tie a bow on this interview by asking her about what she thinks about biological men in women's sport.
Should trans women be able to play in women's sports?
Oh, wow. You hit me with that one.
Yeah.
Look, I think I'm a big advocate that everybody should have access to sport. A big advocate. Because I know what football has done for my life in terms of it's given me everything. Like, it's given me the ability to travel. I've climbed socioeconomically. You know, my mom came to this country as a Nigerian middle-class woman who had to start from the bottom. Right?
Amazing.
Like she
Amazing.
She was a cleaner, she worked for the NHS. No one cared that she was middle class in Nigeria. She had to start from the bottom as an immigrant. And she worked her...
Have you treated her well?
Yes.
I bet
you know, I'm very close to my mom.
Good.
But I think to that point, she had to work harder than others too, right?
Sure.
So everything that we've got is as a result of hard work.
What about
right?
trans women in sports?
No, sorry. So, yeah, sorry, I digressed a little bit. But because of what football has done for me, I want that for everybody. And I don't care that if you identify as, a man or a woman, if you want to play football and play sport.
This is a politician's answer.
No, it's not.
So men
I genuinely
who still have willies can say, I want to play. I'm not getting in the team at Burnley or Chelsea or Tottenham. I don't know why Burnley came to mind, but but I actually identify as a woman now. They're going to take the place of an actual woman.
Well, this take the place argument. I mean.
Well, in America, there were loads of people who lost scholarships because, like swimming scholarships, for example, because Leah Thomas.
I think it's tough. I think in individual sports. Obviously, I work in team sports, but the take the place argument, there's always going to be a limited amount of people and a lot of people that don't get that spot. So you shouldn't pick on someone who's trans just because they have taken someone else's spot. That's just sport, right?
Well, it's not sport because we separate men and women.
Yeah, I think there's different categories of football, right? So I've always played in women's football, and I wouldn't expect to play in men's football, and vice versa.
Well, you'd get. I imagine. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you wouldn't even be in the first like 5 divisions, would you?
Oh, that's a bit.
Well, I just remember
I
I think it was Serena Williams who said I wouldn't be in the first 300 of the men's.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's her opinion of her own ability. But I played with boys up until the age of 14, and I was better than a lot of them.
Yeah, but you weren't playing with,
No, I mean, look, if I played with Kevin De Bruyne, and I mean, I'll be.
That's what I'm saying.
Not even.
So how can we then have Kevina De Bruyne, who's, do you know what I mean? I think this is something that I understand why you're reluctant to go, because you've got sponsors and you've got.
No.
That's why I want to bring it up.
I'm not here. No, listen, I'm not here to toe the line for any sponsors.
But I find it mad that
I'm still trying to understand myself transphobia. Like I'm trying to understand it myself, because it is a form of discrimination that I take seriously. I take all forms of discrimination seriously. I take anti-Semitism seriously. I have Jewish friends. I take, LGBTQ rights seriously. I have gay friends.
But is it transphobic? This is the thing. It's about what is transphobic. So I would say it's transphobic to say, I don't want to hire that person because they're trans, right? Or I don't like that person because I don't want to touch or hang out with them. That's transphobic. Is it transphobic, however, to say, I don't believe that a trans woman is a woman, and therefore I don't believe she should be playing football, like he or she should be playing football in the... I don't think that's transphobic.
I mean, I would say that that's offensive to anyone who genuinely identifies as a woman.
But a lot of women are offended that these people are saying, it's like woman face, they're calling it.
Calling what?
Woman face. Like blackface, you're putting on woman face, you're putting on earrings, like long hair.
Yeah, look, I think from my understanding of people in the trans community, they've, this is identity, so they have been through a lot to have to transition, right? Like, it's not something that they just like woke up and decided to do. Like,
I agree.
This is hard for them, right? So if a trans person says they are a woman, believe them.
Once again, just the worst type of activist. She has gotten to the top of the mountain. She's done what she needed to do with her career. And then she looks back at all of the women following in her footsteps. And you know what she does? She cuts the rope. She says, okay, now that I'm done, now that I'm retired, it's okay for these biological men to compete in women's sport. And why does it matter anyway? I mean, I definitely would have been able to compete with all the boys. Trust me, bro, when I was a kid, I used to beat all the boys. Once again, the delusion here is manifest, because the fact that she scoffed at the notion that she couldn't play in the top 5 divisions of men's football is completely and utterly outrageous. For those of you who don't follow English football, the 5th division is the conference or the national division. And even below that, there are the North and South national leagues and really good levels of football. And this is not just to be gratuitously mean to her, but she opened herself up to it with these comments.
Get it down.
Perfect.
This is the one.
Oh, go on then. Play!
But anybody who knows anything about football, or anybody who knows anything about sport for that matter, who thinks that she would stand even the slightest chance of making a 1st division high school boys team is completely kidding themselves. She's a 5'3" woman who would maybe be able to be competitive in like a local under 15s boys team, but that's being charitable. The dignified position for her to take here would be that I understand that women's football is absolutely nowhere near the quality of men's football, and it never will be. And even though I could never play at that level, or I could never understand the game to that level, which would require years and years of playing there, I'm grateful that they gave me a chance to talk on the TV. And there is absolutely no doubt that women's sport should remain women's sport. But no, took the opposite approach. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed that. As per usual, links are below. If you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, right here. And if you'd like to watch another one, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.